I was like, I'll take that challenge.
As he's spinning, spin, young man. Vince Carter.
Thank you guys for having me here.
Let's get it.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Go Getters Show, sponsored by AFC Fitness in Philadelphia, brought to you by Sturdy Bros Productions. I'm here with my guy, Nate. How you feeling today?
Feeling good. This is going to be a fun one. Should be a lot of interesting stories. Get to know our guy pretty well.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Without further ado, we got Nick Bayer, CEO and founder of Saxbys. Great to have you, man.
Thanks, Danny. Thanks, Nate. It's great to be here with you guys.
Yeah, so let's just get right into it. I think for me, we were just kind of talking off camera. What you're doing is so cool, and I feel like a lot of people might not even know about it. So he's building experiential learning platforms, and we're going to dive into that, obviously. Yep. But I think the big topic nowadays is college really worth it? There's college as a scam comes up a lot. Is the classroom versus getting experience? What's the most important for a young developing working person, right? So let's just dive into that, because I feel like this would have been right up my alley in college. So yeah.
Mine too, right? I wish I could rewind the clock and do it myself. And I think that's part of the motivation for it, right? And so I would say like the early genesis of this, right? Everything in life is personal, right? Like what was your upbringing? What did you experience both from a positive and a negative perspective? So much of my early life, and I think the early inspiration for what became of the Saxbys experiential learning platform was my parents, right? My parents were the first people in their families to go to college. My dad was a football player. My mom was a cheerleader. They show up at school, and 9 months later, I show up, right? And they drop out of school. They move back to the south side of Chicago, and they take whatever jobs they can get, because when you're 18, 19, uneducated, untested, no network, you don't get to choose what job you're going to get, right? Like the world sort of tells you what you're going to get, and it's oftentimes not what you want, right? So my parents for 18 years growing up in their house were like, Nick, you are going to get your education, right? Like it's going to give you the certification. It's going to give you the network. It's going to give you the confidence. It's going to give you the personal experience to figure out what it is you're passionate about and what you want to do. And so that's hung with me for a long time, right? Like a long, long time. And I was a student athlete, which was really helpful for me because I think it opened up some more doors for me educationally, and also became like a really awesome way to be able to go to school, right? Like you guys. I had teammates, I had coaches, I had expectations, not just in the classroom, not just socially, but to my team and to my program and to my teammates. And so that was really, really important to me. But entrepreneurship, as you know quite well, Danny, it's not a linear thing. You don't have an idea and you go out and execute and things just work perfectly, right? It's very non-linear, right? You take 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But if you have a North Star in what you're trying to accomplish as a person and as an organization, you'll eventually start moving in the right direction. And our experiential learning platform, I think, is evidence of that.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's funny you mentioned that. When we first started talking about starting this podcast, we didn't really know what direction we wanted to go in terms of our approach with the guest. And then one of our guys that was helping us, he mentioned the North Star as well.
Totally.
And just always coming back to what makes someone a go-getter. And so I think that's really cool to hear your story so far.
I don't know if you guys know this, but our espresso at Saxbys is go-getter espresso.
Oh, wow. Oh, is it? And
so
your favorite drink is the iced Americano, right?
It is. It's like I like everything cold, right? I drink everything cold. It could be like 2 degrees out and blowing snow, and I'm drinking something cold. Like I like cold. So like our cold brew, our iced Americano. That's the way things have evolved too, right? Like you guys are young guys. You have people that are a little bit younger than you that are in college right now. It's hard to like drink a piping hot coffee and be like, this is delicious. It's not that delicious, right?
You got to wait 20 minutes.
You got to wait 20 minutes. And like, there's a lot of not good coffee out there. You get a cold brew, right? It's been steeped. There's no bitterness. It's smooth. It's got a little chocolatey finish. You're like, ooh, this is pretty good, right? So the industry has really moved in that direction as well. But so the point of the North Star, right? So Saxby's mission statement is to make life better, right? It says nothing about coffee, smoothies, grilled cheese, all the things that we monetize, right? Like the essence, the vision, the mission of our business is to make life better. And the way we do that is an education company. We empower and support the next generation of leaders and entrepreneurs through experiential learning, right? So we are operating 35 and rapidly growing cafes that are on college campuses that are exclusively run by undergraduate students. And the students are receiving academic credit, they're paid wages, and they have full responsibility for the business's profit and loss statement, right? Most of them come to us, they don't even know what P&L stands for. They don't understand that it stands for profit and loss. They've maybe never managed people, let alone actually had a job before, right? But if we think today that you're just gonna rely on going to a good school, getting a good GPA, and a job just gonna fall in your lap, it's not gonna happen. It is not gonna happen. But if you've got emotional intelligence, critical thinking, cultural agility, resilience, things that can't be taught in the classroom, but everyone needs, whether you're entrepreneurs, you're going to work in a big corporation, everyone's looking and needing those skills. That's where experiential learning kicks in. So we're not trying to replace higher ed. We're trying to advance and modernize the higher ed experience, because I do think higher ed is very important.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I think it's an amazing idea, and I want to dive deeper into that. First, let's get back to your childhood a little bit.
Yep.
So I'm always fascinated by people's makeups and the environment that they grew up in. So I'm a middle child. Both parents are entrepreneurs.
Very cool.
So you're talking about your parents kind of having to get any job they wanted. Was entrepreneurship a path that you knew about? I know you said they wanted you to go to school and get your education. So like, where did you get your entrepreneurial background from? And then what is your outlook on like your college experience that you had? And do you think it is as important to still get your academics and classwork in when the experiences have proven to maybe be way more beneficial?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll come to the college question second in that order. So the first one, you know, like, did I know that entrepreneurship was a path? No, like I did not at all. Right. But my parents, and I have tremendous like gratitude to them for this, always raised me in a way where it was like, the things that we do that you don't like, don't do them. The things we do that you do like, do them better. And you could go and do anything, right? Like when I got, my path to college was a little convoluted, right? I was a basketball player. I got hurt my senior year. I lost all my offers. I wasn't cleared to play basketball anymore. So I came back my senior year to play baseball, right? Because I associated, probably like you guys, I associated going to school with playing a sport. That's all I knew, right? My whole life, those two things went hand in hand, right? So if I wasn't going to play a sport, my question mark was, am I going to go to school? Because no one in my family went to school. Where I grew up, most people didn't go to school, right? And so finding that sport was important. So baseball fortunately worked out for me. I got recruited by a bunch of schools and went to school. Cornell's an expensive place, right? Like everywhere's overpriced right now, but Cornell even back then was very expensive. But to my parents' credit, they never sweated the price tag. They couldn't afford it, but I remember them saying, we're going to figure out a way. But like that's going to be a place that's going to help you unlock your greatness. And I have eternal gratitude for my parents for that, right? And look, it was hard. And I paid back my student loans for 20 years, right? It's like, you guys know, the Ivy League doesn't give scholarships. It didn't then. It would have been much better for me today because now they give you grants based on household income. And so I probably wouldn't have borrowed as much money, but it is what it is, right? Like you're given lemons, you make lemonade out of it, right? And my parents really taught me that. But entrepreneurship, I didn't know because when I was coming through school, no one was teaching entrepreneurship. Right? You weren't sitting in a class and like, oh, I'm going to sign up for a class on entrepreneurship. Nobody, with the exception of Babson College, which has always been teaching it, nobody was teaching entrepreneurship. Right? So I was a square peg in a round hole. I was 22, graduating, being like, I know two things about myself. The best comes out of me when I'm forced to be competitive, but I'm happiest when I'm doing things for other people. Right? So how do I sort of align those two things? And I'm old enough that if you wanted to do the first thing, you want to go be competitive and driven and accomplish something, you had to go into a for-profit venture. If you wanted to do things for other people, you had to go nonprofit, go be a coach, go be a teacher, go work in the nonprofit world. But I didn't want to live two separate lives, which is what I did for a few years out of school, right? I was a consultant. I was like working hard by day and making some money and growing my career. But what I really liked was being a big brother and big brother's big sisters, volunteering my time at Boys and Girls Club, like working at Covenant House, a youth homeless, like that's what I loved. And at 25, which you guys just turned, right? I had a quarter life crisis because I wasn't doing what I loved the way that you guys are doing what you love. I needed to erase that line between my personal and professional life. And that eventually became, what is today, Saxbys. To your second question, Danny, so like about the higher ed world. Is higher ed really challenged right now? Is it going through, I would call it an existential crisis? Undoubtedly. But where there's crisis, there's opportunity, which we realize a lot right now in Saxbys. But is it worth it? Is it worth it? Is it perfect for everybody? No. Should the majority of people go to and get their college degree? Yes. The data still holds up, right? If you go to college and graduate, on average, you will make $1 million more in your career than if you don't, right? Like I saw an article this morning about here in Philadelphia, a young man at Father Judge who is taking like trade classes and got a job offer for $68,000, which is a lot of money, right? And they're like, why would you go to college? Well, think out when you're 30, 40, 50 years old. What path are you going to be on at that point, right? Like, so making decisions right when you're young based purely on money, I think is short-sighted. College is going to give you the opportunity professionally to continue to level yourself up. But I think the thing that's oftentimes missing, and higher ed gets this wrong because they don't talk about it enough themselves, and we focus on a lot this at Saxbys, is the human, the personal development side. Think about the person you guys were when you showed up in college at 18 and the person you were when you were 20 or 22 or 23 coming out of school, right? Yes, your resume was better. Yes, you have the piece of paper and the diploma and you have a network, but think about how much you grew up as a person. Some dumb things you did, and some smart things you did and the relationships that you built. Like that is hugely important. So I look at higher ed, the totality of experience of higher ed as being something where you learn and grow a lot personally and professionally and come out the other side a better, more prepared person to go find your greatness.
That's a good point. I think, you touch on a lot of really good stuff. But what I was going to say is going back to that midlife crisis you had where you wanted to make that change.
Hopefully quarter life crisis, Nate.
Quarter life.
Hopefully it was just a
We're
quarter
living till we're
life.
100
Hopefully I'm
these
going to
days.
100. Yes, exactly.
But talk about that crisis you had and realizing that there was something bigger out there for you, and then how it kind of transitioned into the cafe industry and what made you so intrigued by that.
Yeah, it's funny. I spent a lot of time obviously in higher ed in the classroom. I was with a lot of different students from a bunch of different universities yesterday, sort of talking about my entrepreneurial path. And I literally always tell people, do as I say, not as I did. Right? Like once I could no longer deal with just the 9-to-5 grind, and it had nothing to do with my job. My job was great. The people I worked with and worked for was great. It just wasn't right for me. Right? Like my passion, like I always say, like my intellectual curiosity and the passion in my heart were misaligned. Right? Like it did a little bit for me here. It did nothing for me here. Right? The nonprofit work, doing things for other people, stimulated me mentally and made my heart race to the point where it was like hard to sleep at night. Right? And so that's why I knew I had to do something about that. But I didn't know anything about anything. Right? I didn't know how to write a business plan. I didn't know how to do like a SWOT analysis or raise capital or do any of those things. I just knew to take a chance. Right? Like I think we're all risk takers when you care deeply about something. Right? And like, I didn't come from much, right? So I didn't have much to risk. It wasn't like I was going to risk my reputation or my family's reputation or a ton of money, right? Like I didn't come from a lot, and I've never been super motivated by money. So I didn't think much about what if this fails. The little bit that I did, I was 25 years old, right? The little bit that I did, I was like, okay, 90% of all businesses fail within 2 years. The likelihood is I was going to fail, right? So I was like, I did have a contingency plan, but I was like, and the same thing stands today as it was 20 years ago when I was starting this business, is if I fail, one, I have a college degree and I had a good job. And two, more importantly, I'm going to be a desirable asset because I went for it. I shot my shot. I tried to do something entrepreneurially. 20 years ago, every company wanted people like that. 20 years later, everybody still wants people like that. So I was like, there's no downside. Like there's no risk to me, right? But I wish if I could turn back the clock, I wish I had the maturity. I wish I had the training to like plan for my business, right? I always say like writing a business plan is like having a roadmap. You guys are too young to understand this, but when I was like first learning to drive and for a bunch of years after that, like if you were driving somewhere, you literally were holding a piece of paper. You were holding a map to say, here's where Nate lives, here's where Danny lives, here's how I'm going to get there. Well, you're driving along, right? This is your business plan analogy. You're driving along and all of a sudden there's a tree down on the road and you can't go on that road. Well, your business plan allows you to be like, all right, I know where my North Star is. My North Star is getting to Danny's house or to Nate's house. So I know I can go this way, this way, this way, and this way. I didn't have that, right? But the North Star, fortunately, was like in my heart. Like I always cared deeply about what we were going to do as a business. And we would hire another person and another person. And what they were most motivated about was not coffee and coffee shops. It was that we were going to leverage our business to change the trajectory of people's lives, right? Who do you think our first, we call employees, team members at Saxby, like who do you think our first team members were? People that were in Big Brothers Big Sisters, people that were in Boys and Girls Clubs, the Covenant House. Like we wanted to give them an opportunity that nobody else was giving them, not so that they would work on a coffee shop forever, but help them find their greatness, have a resume, and then be able to go leverage that and level that up to a place where they could move. So the early remnants of our experiential learning platform were there, right? We were always entrepreneurial. We were very mission driven, and we were giving people a shot through this kind of business. And so that's what we did for a really long time until 2012, 13, a lot of schools in Philadelphia, as you guys know, Philadelphia is like a big college town, started to call me and say, hey, Nick, we're starting to teach entrepreneurship. We want entrepreneurs to come in the classroom and tell their war stories. And it was like that light bulb movement, right? I started showing up at Temple and Penn and Drexel and St. Joe's and all these places. And I'm talking to students and like, they're so eager to learn about entrepreneurship. And they can't wait to hear all the mistakes that I made and what I would have done if I could do it better and how they could do it better than I did. And I was like, this is intoxicating. Like this is the world that I need to be in. And so it was a little bit of like a right place, right time kind of thing.
Well, so that's amazing. All of that stuff. Let's play devil's advocate though. So you say in hindsight, you'd want to start with a business plan and be more prepared, but we're big believers in fail fast, fail often. And I'm sure you are too. So I want to get back to 2005, Atlanta, 150,000 in credit card debt, if I'm correct.
Yep.
So you're 25 at the time.
Yep.
So you're 150K in debt. You got student loans. if that didn't happen, is Saxby's as successful today? Because say you took the year to make a plan and really be, structured type A with it.
Yep.
For me, that's not how I operate. And I know it's interesting to hear you saying in hindsight you would have done that. So maybe I need to kind of find a balance. But I think there is a beauty in just diving into it and failing. So talk about that.
It's a great question, great challenge, Danny, right? It really is, because it's really not how I'm built. Like, I'm not the kind of person, like I always joke back then, a little bit less so today, right? Like, we have private equity backed company now. We have 1,300 people who work in Saxbys, right? I have lots of smart, talented people in the company. So like, we are a little bit more sort of like prepared and planned out as to how we do things. But back in the day, I was very much a ready, fire, and then aim kind of person.
That's how we are too.
And like, look, I think that's a little bit more my nature, right? But I know that I can't be like, let's say that that's one polar end of the spectrum. And the other polar end is to sit and plan, and it's like paralysis by analysis.
Yep.
Like, it's not my nature, and I also wouldn't recommend that. I think a little bit of the blend of the two is probably the reason why Saxbys has started to get the traction we've started to get over the last 5 years. Because like, even the advent of our experiential learning platform, right? Like, we're almost 10 years to the day from the opening of the first ever experiential learning Saxbys. I was telling the story to all these students yesterday, and if it wasn't for the vision and the courage of John Fry, who's the longtime president of Drexel, he just bounced across town. He's now the president at Temple. He was my first partner in experiential learning, right? Like, I could have pitched this half-baked idea of students running their own Saxbys 24/7, 365, getting credit, wages, full P&L authority to a lot of people, and gotten a lot of, no, there's no chance it's going to work. I pitched it to the perfect person. He was like, that idea is brilliant. I would love to be your partner. How can I help you? Right? So like, one person believed in it. And most people, when we were first launching that cafe, most people were like, Nick, I love the idea. There's no chance 18 to 22-year-olds are going to be able to run their own business, manage their own peers, marketing plans, serve their own guests in a competitive environment day in and day out. You might get lucky and have a Danny and Nate in the first semester, but guess what? 6 months later, they're studying abroad or they graduated. There's no way you're going to be able to replicate that. As an athlete and as a ready, fire, aim kind of person, I was like, I'll take that challenge.
It's crazy when you think about it.
It is crazy. It is totally crazy. But like, when you're willing to do something crazy and you're willing to put it on the line, and you're the kind of leader that attracts other people, and you share in the idea and you work hard with equal voices, you can accomplish the crazy, right? You can accomplish the crazy. And so I think that had I not started the way that we started and had my lumps, right? 2 steps forward, sometimes 3 steps back, not always 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, like taking my lumps and had experience, I don't think that the experiential learning platform would have ever gotten traction, right? So would I go back and change it? No, because it's not my nature, right? My nature is I'm pretty risk tolerant, right? Like, I will take risks. I will try things. I think I have a level of humility, and I have like thick skin, right? Is like, you're not, if you just want to replicate the status quo, you're never going to do anything great. You're never going to love what you do. And like, that's not the way that I was sort of like motivated. So I think if I could have been a little bit more prepared, like once we started to open an experiential learning cafe, and then we opened one at Temple, and we started to grow a little bit, that's when we were like, all right, let's do a little bit more planning than I had ever done sort of my first 10 years, because like, each stage of business doesn't get easier. It gets harder, right? Like, you go from 2 people to 20 people, it doesn't get easier. I have college kids ask me that all the time. Like, I had a young man the other day ask me, and he meant it good naturedly, right? He was like, Nick, now that you've made it, like, how do you stay motivated? I'm like, I'm honored that you think I made it. I'm like, I have not made anything, right? Like, I have to work as hard and I have the same level of healthy paranoia that I wake up with today that I had 20 years ago, right? There's no such thing as making it. And so I appreciate his question to that, but like, you have to bring an A game. My good yesterday doesn't give me a guarantee for a good today, right? You got to hustle. And that's why it's the North Star. If you think you're just going to be motivated based on money, money starts to wear off. You buy yourself another pair of shoes, another blazer, a watch, a car, blah, 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 blah. That becomes less and less important to you. It makes your heart race less and less and less. If your North Star is something greater than just financial outcomes, that's what gets you out of bed every single day at 25, 35, 55. And like, I can't wait to go tackle this day because I'm changing people's lives. You guys are changing people's lives. Right? Like, you're watching Mac McClung and you're watching Jake West, and you're watching all these young guys and girls who you're supporting and pushing them and challenging them and watching them unlock their own greatness and then go do it on a stage and watch them live happy lives. That's the coolest thing. That's the best professional career anyone can have. So kudos to you guys.
Appreciate that.
We talked about 150K in debt, right? And then there was a time came that you filed bankruptcy, right?
Yeah, the company did. Yeah,
the company, and then someone a capital firm.
MVP Capital, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Came in and bought it out to kind of help you get out of the hole. So talk about that and talk about the moment you realized that this was reality and how you were going to plan going forward based on that outcome.
And also real quick to add on to that, talk about like those dark days of going bankrupt, like what you were going through. What were you feeling like?
Yeah, no, it was tough. Look, it was a really, really long time ago, right? And I have a lot of gratitude for MVP. The event I was at yesterday was actually sponsored by MVP, and they were there. And so I got to tell a version of this story a lot. So there was like students from like 7 different universities, and like they were hearing entrepreneurial stories. So it's funny timing of this because like I don't think about it much anymore, right? Like you're always moving forward, right? Like you have to learn your lesson and then move forward. When you look backwards, you get stuck in place. Right? Like always looking forward and being grateful for the challenges. Like everyone has a challenge. Like I've chosen to live my life and chosen to live my professional path in a very public way. I don't hide from anything. Like all questions are sort of on the table for me. And so that time for us, it was challenging, right? Like it was, because like I was at that point, right? I was a couple years into the business. We had some litigation with some former partners that had gotten like just really out of control from a time and from a money perspective. And it was one of those situations where we had to sort of make a decision as to like, how are we going to resolve this? They were trying to stall it out. Like they saw that the business was growing. They wanted to stall out the litigation and just wait for the money pot at the end. But we didn't want to share the money pot that they didn't deserve, right? And so it was a very aggressive tactic to put the company into bankruptcy. We did it not because we couldn't pay our bills. We did it because we forced the litigation to actually come to a head.
Gotcha.
We of course won the litigation. And the important thing of that though is like, we talked about this again because it's like, I think about that time in life is very similar to what happened in March of 2020, right? When COVID happened. Mm-hmm. It was a very similar, I didn't use the same language that I did in March in 2020, but in March 2020, when like all of our cafes closed and stayed closed for 5 months, right? Every single Saxbys was in a high-rise office building or on a college campus, which were fully shut down for 5+ months. Like we were in the vortex of the storm. And I remember talking to my leadership team, talking to MVP, who were still my investors. And I was like, I want to be honest with you guys. And if you share this feeling and we're honest with each other, I don't want to just survive. I want to survive so that we can thrive on the other side of this hardship. And they all said yes. And it was essentially the same feelings that I had in 2007 when that stuff went down. Is like, I don't want to just survive. It's not about winning a lawsuit or coming out the other side of this reorganization. I want to do this only because it means that I and this business can thrive on the other side. And that's why we did it. And that's what we did. And MVP came to the table, right? And MVP's founder is Bob Brown. His sons essentially now run the business. Bob had been at that point in private equity. He was a pioneer in the private equity space. He'd been in private equity almost as long as I'd been alive, right? So this guy had literally forgotten more than I knew. And I remember the first thing he ever said to me was, Nick, I'm not here. We're not here to run this business. We bet on entrepreneurs. We bet on people, not on business plans. And it's some of the best advice I've ever gotten. And I give it to every single entrepreneur that I meet is like, because you could change out like an investor is a proxy for anybody. Employees bet on the leader, right? And then you hire someone and then they lead people. The people who are going to work for that person bet on the leader more than the business plan, more than the product that you're actually selling, right? So it is about being true to who you are and what you pursue. So were those dark days? Yes, they were dark days, right? They were really, really challenging. I had to do a lot of soul searching, whether this was the business, if this was the path that we wanted to do, and to know that that would always be out there. Or if I was going to continue to grow this business, that would always be a point in time. But nothing good comes easy, right? And I've never met anybody like think about Mark Zuckerberg, one of the most successful entrepreneurs of all time, Bill Gates, right? And I'm measuring that based on like what they've created and obviously their wealth. Think about the hardships they've been through, right? The movies made about them, the podcast made about them. Like I have no shame in those things and the things that I did or the way that we handled it. And instead it's become one of those things that people can point back to now to be like, man, this guy didn't come through on easy street, right? Like it's been hard because guess what? All professional paths, all entrepreneurial paths are hard and are challenging. And if you have a North Star, you're willing to survive it to thrive on the other side. If you don't, you'll crumble. You won't do it anymore. So I'm ultimately very, very grateful for it. And I think in some weird way, I was probably grateful for it in the time. Like I was like, this is going to work out one way or the other. I'm either going to win and we move forward or we're going to lose. I'm going to go find my next thing.
Yeah. No, I feel like it's more fun that way. A lot of people think success is this linear path, but it's like the stock market. It's up, down, up, down. So I think it's, you describe yourself as a big pie guy. So it's interesting you bring up Zuckerberg. Obviously, he's like created his own lane with social media. So in our industry, basketball training, it feels like there's a million AAU teams now,
Yeah, man.
all these trainers, teams. So we're always talking about, like, I always say there's enough pie for everybody to eat. So for you going into the coffee business with Starbucks and obviously all these other big coffee brands, I feel like you went into the big pie, but now you're crafting your own lane. So I guess talk about, how do you find originality in a space that is quote unquote very saturated, even though I obviously read you believe it's not oversaturated. Like, you believe there's still a lot of opportunity there. And I think basketball training there is too.
Totally.
But we find that where it's like we struggle sometimes because one of our players goes to work with another trainer, and then it's like, so how do we separate ourselves? So talk about kind of where you found that originality. And
Yeah. I mean, look, that's an amazing question. And I love the research too, right? So I loved this industry then, and I love it today because of the big pie, like going after and getting your pie. I think where we've evolved as a business though is we're more aligned now to like a Facebook. Like we are sort of an industry creator right now with our experiential learning platform, right? Which is awesome, right? Because it's like, oh my God, we're one of one doing what we do right now, but there's no lead blocker, right? Like Starbucks is always a lead blocker for us. Be like, what were they doing? Did they raise prices? Did they add new items? Like, you could always just sort of figure that out and then just do your version of it. But we don't have that anymore, right? And so we have to train schools. We have to train students. We have to train a lot of people to do something and to want something that's never been done before, right? So like, it's really hard. It's a huge challenge for us that we're starting to see a lot of success on as it relates to your guys' business and any business, right? It's about outcomes, right? It's about outcomes, right? So for us, the way that we're able to continue to move forward as a segment or an industry creator is because everything we talk about are the outcomes that happen, right? So I brought this like Wall Street Journal article here. This is from several months ago that I like the Wall Street Journal. I'm a business person, right? I like to read what the coolest companies are doing and the best entrepreneurs are doing. And I read it. It's always been a dream of mine for us to be in there. And that's a full page feature that right in the middle of it is me with that graduating class of student CEOs, right? And when we talk about outcomes, we talk about the fact that every single student who has ever come into the Saxbys experiential learning platform and been into a leadership position has graduated college first and foremost, which if you think about it today in May of 2025, only 52% of people who go to college graduate. 1 out of every 2 don't graduate. Wow. The majority of them borrow money, right? So you could make the argument that they are worse off. They didn't get the degree, they didn't get the personal outcomes, and they have that, right? So 1 out of 2 don't even graduate. So I'm uber happy and proud of the fact that 100% of our student leaders graduate, but also of the student CEOs, they get a leadership position, promoted into a leadership position 7 times faster than the average college graduate. Right, so it takes 7 years for the average college graduate to get promoted, to accomplish enough, build the network, the skills for a company to say, I'm going to now promote you into a position where you lead other people. Our student CEOs get there in 12 months, right? So everything we do when we speak to the University of Virginia or Marist University is not taste my cold brew, it's awesome. It's this is where our students come from. These are videos, as you guys saw, the videos of these students talking about this experience. The best experience I've ever had in my life and in college is this. I learned more about it than this. So it's all about outcomes. So yes, I'm in a competitive industry. You can go get a good cup of coffee at a gas station right now. I'm not in the coffee industry. I'm in the experiential learning business. I'm in the education business, right? And so you guys are not purely in the basketball industry. You're helping young people find their greatness through basketball. And their outcomes, their success, both on the court and off the court, will tie back to the work that you guys are doing more holistically than just dribbling a basketball or shooting a basketball.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because I think, you mentioned some of the guys we work with and they obviously have a really big following. And I think most of what they love about us the most is just our ability to be friends with them and be personable. So it's more than just what we can do for them on the court. Like most trainers can rebound and pass and defend for them, but what's the relationship like with us? And I think us being young and being, pretty involved with the game and stuff like that is, been a big thing for us to build those relationships.
There's tremendous parallels to what you guys are doing and what I'm doing, right? Because I think from the outside, now that we've started to get some accolades and people are starting to see what we're doing, they're like, man, it's so cool, Nick. You must just hold their hands and give them hugs and kisses and tell them everything's good. I'm like, pull back the curtain. It's not kumbaya, right? Like we push them and we challenge them, but they know they're going to get that when they sign up for this. Like I've interviewed every student CEO we've ever had in 10 years, hundreds of them. They don't wait to get to me to find out how hard it's going to be. They know it because oftentimes they work in the cafes, they see it on their campus and they've heard it from everybody else, but they know what they're signing up for. you're going to be pushed and challenged harder than you ever have been. And I would think that the same thing is for you guys. Like, yeah, they like you. You're cool. You're good at, you're smart. You're young, blah, blah, blah. But they also know when they get on the court, you're going to push them. You're going to challenge them. And if they don't want to be pushed and they don't want to be challenged, just want to take cool pictures on Instagram and have some cool TikTok stories, find another trainer. But if you want to find your greatness, you want to be pushed and you want to be challenged, we're the right guys for you. Same way that we approach Saxby.
So how do you foster that accountability? Because you say it's like all student ran, obviously.
Yep.
Is there I'm sure there's a more corporate side, like where you work with like a COO and other people like that.
Yep.
So is there somebody monitoring each branch to make sure it upholds its standards?
Yep.
And then are these student CEOs, do you end up then hiring them into like more?
Good question.
Because I don't know. I guess there's the whole Saxby's like student ran thing. I guess educate me on like your side of the things, the more corporate side, if that's the right way to put it.
Yeah. So we operate a headquarters here in Center City, Philadelphia.
Okay.
We have about 50 people that are based out of that headquarters. The majority of them are on the road. They're in the field because, as I remind people pretty much daily at headquarters, we make no money at headquarters. We only lose money at headquarters. We're all a cost center. All of our success, all of what's important about what we do happens in our cafes. So we have a very, very committed servant leader mentality at Saxbys, which is our jobs exist to serve those that are running our cafes, not the other way around. Like if Nick Bayer, I'm going to roll into a couple of my cafes this afternoon. It's not like roll out the red carpet and blow a trumpet like the king is here. It's the opposite. I'm there to serve them. My job is to serve the people in my company because that's what great leaders do. Right? You serve yourself by serving others. So that's the mentality of our business. And you asked a really astute follow-up question there, Danny, which is, so we operate, almost 1,300 young people running these cafes. They have full responsibility of their business. People oftentimes think like, so there's like, who's the adult that's actually in the cafe doing it? I'm like, there is none. They are all part of pods, right? So we have people in regions that oversee and are in the cafes with regularity. And we have a lot of technology that allows us to oversee things. We're very good at, training and people operations or HR, but they're running their businesses day in, day out. They are running their businesses. Of the people that are in our pods, so those are the direct support of our cafes, 90% of them are graduates of our student CEO program.
Got it.
So we have the best minor league system in business. Saxbys is loaded as a company. It's over 50% of our corporate office are graduates of our experiential learning platform. So at 24, 25, 27, they're not your average 24,
right,
25,
they're managing, that's
millions of dollars of P&Ls, right?
Yeah.
So like I'll be at Marist University tomorrow, actually I'll be there. So that cafe opened in September, right? So it's 1,500 square feet, a little bit bigger than this room right here. We serve 900 guests a day.
Wow.
900 opportunities to screw things up, to make the wrong item, to have someone wait too long. Every single day. It's so busy that we employ about 70 undergraduate students. So that student CEO, Liana Perez, she's going to do her student CEO presentation tomorrow. She manages a team of 70 of her peers in a business that does more than $1 million in revenue. And she manages a global supply chain. She's got 25 people on her leadership. Like she is a full-on CEO, right? Like she is running an unbelievably challenging business. And will she stay with Saxbys? Hopefully. But I do know this. When she graduates, which she will, she is going to be a very desirable talent on the open market, and she's going to be ready to contribute, and she's going to have a level of personal confidence. You saw that in some of the videos I sent you guys, a level of personal confidence that doesn't come by people telling you you're great. You only get it by being challenged. We don't know what we're capable of human beings until we're really challenged, but as human beings, we oftentimes don't like being challenged. So when they step between the white lines to get trained by you guys, when they step inside the cafe to get trained by us, it needs to be hard. It needs to be challenged not because we're masochistic and we want to put them down. We're helping them unlock their greatness. So we have a hard screen for people who want to work at Saxbys, right? Yeah, it's the cool place on campus, the place to be and be seen. We pay well, like you have all these growth opportunities. But if you're not willing and capable to pursue your greatness and put in the work, don't apply. It's just going to be too hard. Right. And it is too hard for some people, right? Our average student CEOs in 6 months. So they 6 months, they take no classes, get a full semester of credit, have full P&L authority. In 6 months, the average Saxby student CEO writes up 16 coaching and counseling forms, right? So let's say I'm the student CEO, Nate shows up late. I have to sit down with Nate and I have to write him up, gets put in his file. Nate might be in my fraternity or my teammate or my girlfriend's best friend or blah, 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 blah. Like there's all the personal dynamics because guess what? That's how the real world operates. Right. So they have to do that 16 times. Right. And so again, I hate to harp on the fact that it's hard, but if you want to pursue your greatness in this world, whether it be through basketball, through education, or anything in between. You have to put yourself in challenging positions.
And I'm fascinated by the 100% graduation rate, because I feel like for me, if I was a student CEO in the Saxbys ELP program, I feel like maybe I'd want to drop out and start my own thing. So have you ever experienced something where there's this unbelievable student CEO and they're like, I don't need 2 more years of college. I'm just going to go build my own business. Obviously, there hasn't been that. Has there ever been discussions of that? Have you thought of that?
We actually had a young man at Drexel. He was probably student CEO number 3 or 4.
Sorry to interrupt. Is there an age limit for, can they be a freshman student CEO?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's rare as freshmen, right? Because one of the challenging things we have to do, and it's different at every single school. Drexel's a co-op school, right? So the students who go there, they're going to co-op usually 2 or 3 times. So we plug into the co-op program there and it's very easy. University of Virginia is a liberal arts school, right? Like crediting for outside activities is like goes against the grain of what they do. But we have an entire team of PhDs at Saxbys, right? So an entire team of people who got their PhD, taught in higher ed, they understand how higher ed works. So we custom create an academic pathway, a crediting pathway for every single university. There's no one size fits all, right? And so same way you guys are going to train Jake differently than you're going to train, Jason. You had Jason Drake, I think, here recently too. Like you're going to train them a little bit differently, right? Like their skill sets, their size, like where they are in their careers are a little bit different. Like we do the same thing for our academic partners. And so it's really unique. It's very challenging. But one of the things I love about this is it's open to everybody. We've had student CEOs that are obviously business majors. We've had ones that are dance majors and history majors and everything in between, because the reality is if you can learn how to be emotionally intelligent, a critical thinker, and resilient, you're going to be better at whatever career path you actually pursue. And there's no way to learn those things in a classroom. And so, that's why we sort of like custom create everything that we do there. But yeah, we have had a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot. We've definitely had cases where people are like, I've sort of like accomplished what I want to accomplish in college. And there was one particular young man, I remember doing that. And he was like, Nick, can you guys just hire me a corporate office? And it was like a dilemma for us because he was a star, right? He was like really talented. He had just finished his sophomore year. And so like as a business person, of course we were like, oh my God, Dan would plug really well into this business, but it goes against what we stand for. Like we don't believe that it's just about experiential learning. We think that it's about getting your college degree and having a college experience with experiential learning, right? And so we actually have a young man on our team who's a regional manager. He's had a great career in retail leadership. He doesn't have his college degree. And it was a big dilemma for us as to whether we were going to hire him. And we did hire him. And after his first year, he was like phenomenal. We went to him. We're like, look, if you want to do this, don't do this because Nick wants you to do it. Do it because you want to do it. We will pay to let you, support you to finish your degree. Because like he went to school, dropped out, he like work a little bit more, because that's the number one reason young people drop out of school is they work too much. Oftentimes it's not, people think it's like, oh, monetarily, like they need money. Yeah, they probably need money, but they also usually like working more. Yeah. They like what they're doing on their job. They don't like sitting and being lectured at for 2 hours by a history professor. Right. And so that's one of the many dilemmas that higher ed has right now is you can't just talk at people the way I had to learn when I was in college. You can't do that anymore. One, not what people want. The customer, the student doesn't want that. And 2, it's not preparing them for what employers want. If you look at employer satisfaction of the preparedness of college students right now, it has plummeted in the last 10 years. Plummeted.
Do you require college degrees or no?
At the corporate office?
Yes.
We do not require it, right?
Because we're seeing that fall, right? And just general studies. And
the problem though, so I was talking to somebody like this, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania recently did this, right? Is they took away the requirement to have a college degree for the majority of jobs. It hasn't worked well, right? And the reason for that is like all of the people who work in HR who do the hiring, they no longer have credentials to refer to that give them the confidence someone's going to do a job, right? So there's this huge gap between like, do we need to force people into college or do we not? But the good thing about college is like, man, this young man went to Moravian and worked hard and got their degree. I at least know that they have stick-to-itiveness, that they learn things in a classroom, that they have a network and yada, yada. When people don't have that college degree requirement, they're like, well, what am I going to rely on?
And now it's too big of like a supply of, it's like an SAT. It's like the SATs. It's like you have to find some way to, I guess,
filter people
out.
Yeah. You can't over-index on it, but you also can't completely take it away.
Right.
And I think that's part of the dilemma. And that's why the only reason I know that is because like people have come to us saying, hey, Nick, if someone didn't go to college, but they were a student CEO at a Saxbys for 6 months, we'd hire them on the spot. Right. So like they have no credential or the college credential, like how can we sort of like step things in between? So yeah, I think there's a great opportunity for us to do things beyond higher ed, but higher ed needs this.
Yeah.
We like the higher ed space. Like that's a very moldable place of people's lives, you know, at 18 to 22, like we can really make a huge impact. And that's why we attract like, the people that we have at our company right now. I just like look around my office, I sit in meetings. I'm like, God almighty, how did we attract such amazing people? It's not because of our cold room, right? I think our cold room is better than anybody's, but that's subjective. We attract dynamic, talented, motivated, hardworking people because people want to make a difference in other people's lives, right? And we've formalized the program through our experiential learning platform where we get to do that together. And we do it for lots of students every single day.
Yeah. No, so to bring value to the audience, say there is a kid who, for example, Michael Rubin, we brought up earlier, he dropped out of college. A lot of the best entrepreneurs and most successful ones have dropped out of college. So if there's a kid out there that's like, I'm a purebred entrepreneur. I know I want to start my own company.
Yep.
Maybe they've been a student CEO at Saxbys. What do you say to them? Because I remember when I'm a purebred entrepreneur, I feel like, and I tell people I only stayed in college because I wanted to play college basketball.
Yep.
I remember every single day, my sophomore year, I was at Penn State before I transferred to Moravian. I call home to my mom almost in tears saying like, I don't know why I'm in these classes. I feel like I'm not learning. I just felt stuck. Even I got good grades, but I just didn't feel like I was learning or progressing. So like, what do you say to that kid right now that feels trapped because he knows he's an entrepreneur, but there is definitely benefit of getting your degree.
Yep.
And then there's the argument of I'm taking on loans, my parents are paying. So
totally.
I don't know.
Look, college is not for everybody and not going to college is not for everybody, right? So I think it's figuring out, like in that example that you're giving, Danny, like figuring out in that example, is that person one of the few people who actually might be better off not being in the higher ed infrastructure? So let's attack that from both angles, right? So from the first angle of like why they should stay in school. I've learned this from the presidents of our university partners. I think about Bowie State University in Maryland, a historically Black college in Maryland. President Bro is like a very close friend of mine. I look up to her. I'm on her president's cabinet. She's taught me a lot about higher ed. And one of the first things she taught me, and we'd been in higher ed for a long time. We had a bunch of cafes on college campuses, including her campus. She was the one who enlightened me to say, Nick, we have data that shows us when students are involved in something on campus that's student-centric, they're 4 times more likely to stay in school. Think about what you just said, Danny. If you didn't have basketball, you were out. Sounds like you were going to drop out. But you had basketball.
Yeah.
But not everyone's going to be good enough to play a sport in their college, but there's a lot of other things, right? So one of the reasons why President Bro, and I think a lot of other university leaders love having a Saxbys on campus, is as you saw the video, I think from Marist that I sent you, think about how those students talk about Marist, right? And I know all of those kids. I've heard them talk about and say things like, I would drop out if it wasn't for the Saxbys experience, right? Like, so my first recommendation is if you're in the world of higher ed right now, take a hard look at what you're majoring in, right? I have a government degree. I was too lazy to transfer within my university to study something I actually liked, right? So first and foremost, look at what you're studying, right? I think entrepreneurship is a soft landing spot for people like that. Like I met a lot of entrepreneurship students yesterday. I'm on the board of the Close School of Entrepreneurship at Drexel. Like that's a great place because you're learning from entrepreneurs, right? Like it's exciting. It's intoxicating. You're not learning about something that happened 300 years ago, right? Like you're learning about the now. So first I would say is figure out if you're studying the right thing. The second thing is get involved. Get involved in the college experience. Make friends, be a part of something. And if it's still not right for you, then there are instances. Michael Rubin's a great example.
Yeah.
You know, many others. Bill Gates, like Mark Zuckerberg, yada, yada. Like there's many of them that have, I should say many of them. There's some of them.
Well, there's for every one of those, there's probably thousands that it didn't work out for, right? Millions, yeah.
Millions, right? 90% of all businesses fail after 2 years. And failure is not fatal. Right? Like I've failed so much. We talked about that at the beginning of this podcast. Like I've failed so much. It's not fatal, but it's a little bit harder when you're 18, 19, 20. You put money in your credit card, you borrow money, you fall on your face. Very few people have the luxury of just being able to go back to the mom and dad piggy bank or their own personal piggy bank, right? So it's like the stakes are high once you choose to drop out and do it. So I think that every case has to be handled. But I think when we're talking about the significant majority of people, they're better off being in school, getting involved, taking a hard look at what they're studying and get to the finish line, right? Like get to the finish line. I think you're far better off statistically, but there are exceptions.
So let's jump over to like your personal life and a little bit when, you know, you started a family and how you kind of, I mean, we talk about it like there really is no like balance.
No such thing.
But we ask guests this all the time. It's just interesting to see how you kind of balance or try to balance or manage, you know, both different aspects of, you know, having a child and traveling the country and, you know, being with him and being at his games and stuff like that, but then also being there to lead the people at Saxbys?
It's hard. It's a very astute question for such young guys, right? Like, I was pretty much your guys' age when I was starting Saxbys. And Hallie, my wife, and I have been together since 1999, so 26 years, right? We met in undergrad.
Wow.
I was a senior, she was a sophomore, and I was fortunate to find the one. But, you know, she graduates 2 years later. I'm in Atlanta working my job. She moves down afterwards. And then I wind up starting Saxbys. And my first investor was based in Philadelphia, which precipitated our move. So I went home one day. She was getting her master's degree. And I was like, what do you think about moving to Philadelphia? She's like, well, what do you think about the Saxbys thing? Do you think there's a future? I'm like, I think so, but this would give me a better idea of it. So we moved to Philadelphia. Phillies win the World Series 2008. And then she actually got the entrepreneurship bug. She's very athletic, but like not sports athletic. She's like a dancer, right? And strong and flexible. And so she was doing yoga and Pilates certification, moves to Philadelphia, is contemplating getting a PhD, and is like, it's not where my heart is. My heart is in movement and health and wellness. And so to her credit, she buys a reformer, puts it in the second bedroom of our apartment, starts seeing clients, and boom, starts her own business. So Thrive, Pilates and Yoga in Rittenhouse Square, this is their 16th year in business.
Wow.
You talk about big pie, you talk about competition, basketball training, coffee or education, fitness, super competitive, right? Super competitive. But this is her 16th year in business, and she's done it on her own, right? Like, this is a business she ideated, she created, and she runs every day with 45 instructors now, right? I was there this morning. Like, it is just
I was gonna say, how'd she get you to go at 6:30 in the morning and do Pilates?
Well,
because I heard you talk about that. So
yeah,
I'm a big hot yoga guy. So it's like you're in there, maybe only one or two guys are in there. Just no,
I mean, it's almost never that I see, like, I'm a Pilates guy. Like, that's what I like.
I've never tried Pilates, so I got to come by.
It's amazing, right? It's like, it's really good. It's really hard. So, you know, the evolution for me is like, I started my business and that's all I had, right? I had my relationship with Hallie and I had my friends, but like, that's all I had. So I literally worked 24/7, 365. I was moving around, proselytizing what Saxbys is, trying to get people to buy in. We were a franchise business at the time. Like, that's all I did. And then another year goes by and another year goes by, and people probably started getting in Hallie's ear being like, what's happening here? And I didn't feel like I had room for anything else in my life. Like, I could only be great at one of these two things. I could either like focus on getting married and starting a family, or getting my business that place. And so Hallie and I, fortunately, she stayed with me. We continued to sort of grind it out. She becomes an entrepreneur. We get married in 2007. Yeah, married in 2007, and
can't get that wrong.
No, I can't get that wrong. I'm like, because there are a couple key dates in my life, some good, some bad, right? And so 2007, right around the time the company filed reorganization, right? So it was like the most amazing thing in my life was happening, and the most challenging thing in my life were literally happening within 4 days of each other. And so then at that point, we're like, look, let's plan out our lives. She had become an entrepreneur. It's all consuming, as you guys know. Saxbys is at a place where we were like trying to turn the proverbial corner. And so we held off having a family, right? Like, Luke's only 11 years old. Like, my brother is 2 years younger than me. His oldest is in college. His youngest is a rising senior in high school, right? So we waited a while, not for any reason besides, if you want to be great in your professional pursuits as an entrepreneur, it's got to be your number one, right? And so although we haven't made it at Saxbys, we haven't made it at Thrive per se, we have gotten to a position where we were like, okay, we think we can bring another human being into this life. And I think the big turning point for me is, I'm proud of this. Like, I don't want people to feel sorry for me when I say this, but like, there's two things in my life: my work and my family. Nothing else.
Yeah.
I don't golf. I don't play cards with my friends. I don't just like kick it at the neighborhood bar on Tuesdays. I used to when I was your guys' age. I don't do that stuff anymore. Those are the two things that I do, right? And so I take crazy flights. We follow each other on Instagram. You guys see I'm out early, coming late, because if my son has a game, I'm there. I make almost all practices as well, but I don't miss games, right? Like, I am always, always there. Because you know why? My parents didn't have that luxury. My dad, when I was that age, worked in a warehouse. My mom was a receptionist. They were put on a schedule. That's when you needed to be there. Well, my son has a game. See that schedule? That's when you're supposed to be there. And it's a shame. I feel so bad for my parents. My parents are so talented. They could have done so many more things and controlled their life in a different way. And they wanted me to have the luxury that they didn't have, right? And so it's a tremendous luxury. And some people are like, man, you work so hard. I'm like, I don't feel like I work a day in my life. Describing what I get to do, this isn't work. Like, this is amazing. I get to sit here on a podcast and talk to you guys about my life and the work that I'm doing. Like, this is a blessing. But blessings don't come easy, right? Like, you have to earn it, and you have to earn it every single day, right? So I know what's important to me, and I'm good at saying no now. I wasn't forever. I am now. If it's not aligned to my family, aligned to my business, I must write the message. Thank you so much for thinking of me, but I'm not interested at the current time. I must write that 100 times on LinkedIn, on Instagram, all kinds of things. I say it hopefully respectfully, and it's received very well. But if it's not aligned to those two things, I just can't make time for it.
Kudos to you. Like, Luke definitely appreciates that, and he'll remember that forever.
He's gonna be a lot better than me, right? It's like he sees how motivated I am. He sees how motivated Hallie is. Like, you guys will appreciate this, right? As basketball guys, like, when I talk to young entrepreneurs, I like to talk about triple threat. Like, what I value in life is being a triple threat. And to me, a triple threat is how committed you are to your family. And I mean that as like your nuclear family, like your partner in life. And if you have kids, how committed you are to the work that you do. And then what's the impact that your existence, personally, professionally, makes in your community, right? Some people will call that philanthropy. Some people will look at that as a church. But like, to me, that's a triple threat. Right? And there's sort of like an iron triangle. I like that, right? If you give a lot to one, it means that the triangle adjusts itself where there's very little for the others. I'm not saying that this is how everyone needs to live their life, but when I'm being very truthful, I think of my life in form of the triple threat. Like, are there people who have more money than me and have a nicer car? Yes. But the majority of them are divorced, or they don't see their kids, or they don't do anything. I actually saw a guy when I was driving here today. He had a huge sticker in the back of his car that said, "Make money, not friends." I hope I never meet that person in my life. Like, that is just not the way I want to live my life, right? Like, I care about the fact that my wife and son admire the way I live my life, that I'm present and making a difference in people's lives, and that the totality of those two things impacts my small impact in the community in a very positive way. So everything to me is about being a triple threat and not over indexing in one or the other. Because like, if I also just quit my job right now and just focus on my wife and kids, I feel like I have a lot to add from a business perspective. I have a lot to add from a community perspective, right? So it's like, it works in sort of all three areas, or doesn't when you get really over-indexed in one area or another.
Well, does the pendulum ever swing where you're like, I've been traveling too much, I'm working too much, I haven't seen Luke or given Hallie attention? Like, how do you find that balance where it's like?
I think I have the luxury of, like, Hallie and I have been together for so long, right? We have such an open, communication relationship that I think she is very good at putting me in check in situations like that. But I also think I just have like a gut instinct at this point, to know that I've like missed things. But like, but it does happen. You're still a human, and things come up, right? There's some things I can control the majority of my schedule, but there's some things I don't control, right? And I have to make some hard decisions. And I just think it comes down to communication, right? That I'm like, look, bud, I know I told you I was going to be at your game. This is the reason. I don't make some lame excuse. Hallie and I speak very openly to Luke, right? We always have. Like, you speak very, very openly to him. And I think that has allowed communication to work in both directions. One of our 6 core values at Saxbys is care personally, communicate openly. Or I've talked a lot about helping people pursue their greatness, being challenging to people, but doing it respectfully. Our 6 core values at Saxbys are the 6 core values that I use at home, and I hope a lot of our young people use in their lives as well, right? And so, serve yourself by serving others. The more that I can serve other people, the more it comes back to me. And so I think being an open communicator and knowing that the people on my team, my investors, my wife, my son, people in my network can communicate openly to me, I think is really, really important. And then having the willingness and the courage to actually do something about it when you do get out of whack, because you're a human being, you're gonna get out of whack. But like, I love the term equanimity. So equanimity is essentially living in calmness in a world of chaos. It's so easy for, think about this from a basketball perspective, right? Is like, a team is like full court pressing you. They're trying to speed you up. The hardest people to do that to are those that play in equanimity. They play with calmness. They play with control. It's hard to do.
I'm going to steal that.
It's really hard to do. Yeah. I mean, equanimity, like finding your place of calmness and stillness in chaos. The world is always chaotic. The game of basketball is always chaotic, right? Those that can stay above the fray and operate in a place of equanimity are not only more successful professionally or as a basketball player, they're happier. They live in stillness, right? You do yoga, like you understand the importance of that. Like that's something that really, really matters to me. And it's what I try to like work really hard every day to be able to do.
Sweet. All right, I think I got one more and then we kind of do some couple quick hitters. Cool. Walk me through, how many locations are you at right now?
35.
35. So just walk me through the process of how you decide you're ready to expand and get more locations, and then how does that work? Are you renting from Drexel? Is there a profit share? Like, just talk me through that.
Yeah, so it's obviously evolved a lot, but the model that we've locked in, that we've earned, right? The model that we've earned. So when we opened what we call OG Drexel, 34th and Lancaster Avenue, which is where I have this photo shoot right after this. I remember it was like yesterday, April 13, 2015. I had to do whatever it took to get President Fry and Drexel University to say yes to this crazy idea, right? So we had to take real estate that was not controlled by the dining service company. That was essentially 2 apartments. So it was like, I call it B real estate. It's not the A real estate on campus. It was B real estate. We had to use all of our own money to build it out. And then we weren't integrated into meal plan, right? Because like people were like, well, this is a crazy idea. Let's see if they can survive. We more than survived. And more importantly is what I was talking to you about before. You get into a big pie industry, but it's more about what your outcomes are. Our outcomes have been outrageous, right? The 100% graduation rate, 7 times faster leadership positions. So now when we meet with universities, we lead and talk about that. Because if that's what they want, if that's where they want to invest their money, they want to invest their time, then we're the right partner for them. And so the way that this has evolved now, right? Like, so we open up, I think the next one to open up will probably be we're opening a second one at Rowan University, which is, I love Rowan University. It's like the students are humble, hungry, smart. President Hushman is phenomenal. So we're opening, they just spent $40 million to build their Chamberlain Student Center. We're currently in their business school. The campus is vibrant enough and we're successful such that we're going to open a second one, not move the one in there. So Rowan is building us that cafe. Like they're spending their own money to build it. We own the profit and loss statement, right? We pay them a percentage of our top line revenue. So we don't pay rent, but we give them a percentage of every dollar that comes in.
Is top line, that's before expenses?
Exactly, before expenses. So just revenue, right?
So the money, if you make $1 million in revenue, you pay them a percentage of that.
Exactly right.
Got it.
But if we don't manage our expenses well, we make $0.
You go under.
There's no guaranteed bottom line. That goes back to why we are so intensely focused on discipline and hiring the right people. Because if we run our business well, we pay Rowan a lot of money and we make a really good amount of money at the bottom line as well. And I think that's probably the thing that people are like, oh, it's cute that Saxbys runs these things with students. We run these. Let me take that back. They run these exceptionally well. Well, like I look at I see our P&Ls on a weekly basis. They run these businesses exceptionally well. And we pay the universities a significant amount of money on the top line. It's quintessentially a win-win from a dollars and cents perspective. So that's the business model that we've earned as a company, right? If we were just opening up a coffee shop, no university would just build us the coffee shop. But because we're an experiential learning business, because the students who do this stay in school, graduate, and have career outcomes, it's an investment that they're willing to make. Now we look at this from a geographical perspective, right? You guys had asked the question before, like obviously the students are doing this on their own, but not by themselves, right? Like we are supporting them. And so we are very smart about how we grow regionally. And when we enter into a new region, we call regions essentially a 3-hour drive market. We want to open to a place of efficiency, which is usually 5 units within a 3-hour drive radius, as quickly as we can. So we opened in Boston a couple of years ago. Boston's growing a lot right now. We're in Pittsburgh, and that region's been growing a lot. We're going to start to open in Texas very soon. So now for us, we look at it from a geographical perspective, and then we look at it from the actual real estate on campus, because this is a really hard learning experience when the real estate is really good. The real estate's really good. The cafe is going to be very busy. The real estate's bad, you might as well sit in the second floor of a building and use Monopoly money. You're not going to really learn anything. But if you put it in the student center, the main academic building, the main dorm, blah, 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 it's going to be the place to be. And the stakes are really, really high. So it's complicated and complex, but we've done this long enough now to know what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, and the university is kind of win-win for them because they're making an investment in their students and making their school more attractive, and then they're also hopefully profiting. Real quick, how long does it take for them to recoup their initial investment if you had on average?
Typically, about 3 years.
Oh, that's great.
And in the world of higher ed, like they oftentimes don't speak in the language of return on invested capital, like investors do. They're like, if I'm going to put up this money, how long is it going to take for me to see that money back? We speak in that language and we let them know and we track it. Like I meet with our university presidents every end of year. Obviously, we talk a lot about the student learning outcomes. We also talk about the financial outcomes.
Right.
Here's what we said we were going to do. Here's what we're doing. We hold ourselves accountable, even though most of our partners don't necessarily hold us accountable. They're so happy with what we're doing on campus. But like that's the difference between goodness and greatness. We're pursuing our greatness. And I would say, like, I don't mean this to be ostentatious or arrogant. I mean it to like put what I know is going to happen into the world is like watch our growth in the next several years. Like this experiential learning platform is going to really explode.
I mean, you got so much proof now. It's only a matter of time before you take over.
And the
so.
motivation, right? Yeah. The motivation. Like, we can't wait to impact more students' lives, right? Like, that's the thing, is like, I'm so excited about being able to bring this to thousands of more students.
Awesome. All right. Some quick hitters. I think we already touched this, but go-to coffee order.
I mean, these days it's mostly cold brew. Like, because like the issue with an Americano is you need an espresso machine. Cold brew is nice and easy. I've got cold brew, Saxby's cold brew in my fridge always. I pretty much travel with it. So Saxby's black cold brew is my go-to.
Do you ever get coffee from a place not Saxby's if you're traveling? Oh, okay.
Yeah, definitely. I do. I for sure do. Like, I love the coffee industry, right? Like, we have our own roastery in South Philadelphia. We have a coffee team. We buy all of our coffee direct from our growers. So we buy our coffee. We pay 105% more for our coffee than fair trade standards. So again, we're a people business, right? We like impacting people. So I was in Guatemala a couple months ago. I know all of our coffee growers. Like, I love the coffee industry. So when I travel, I absolutely go and support places, right? I do a lot of research. I try to figure out what's out there. I also look at it from a competitive perspective, right? There's a lot of good entrepreneurs in coffee and smoothies and all kinds of things. I like to see what people are doing and see what we can learn, because our business is going to evolve, to more business models than just coffee. We're working on something right now in the sort of health space that, we're going to have like our Saxbys cafes and probably some health concepts on college campuses, so more students can get the opportunity to work in the experiential learning business.
Do you guys have Vietnamese coffee or no?
No, we don't.
Have you had it though?
I have. It's really good. Yeah.
I went to Vietnam. It's like, that's my favorite.
I saw that on your Instagram. Yeah. It's, I'm a pure, like, I drink.
It's a lot of sugar, I think.
It's a lot of sugar. When I was your age, I could probably do it. But
Yeah.
like, everyone teases me, like, I don't eat condiments or dry. Like, I eat salad dry. Like, I consume everything, not because I don't like things, but because I'm like, I try to be very mindful of everything I put in my body.
And smart.
And so it's like, I can sort of eat anything. So I'm like, if I can eat anything, then I don't really need the ketchup or the dressing or this and that, because it's like not the calories that I want. So it sounds like a weird thing, but like, sort of your question earlier, Nate, like how I live my life. I know what's important to me and what's not important to me. And I try to really exhibit the discipline to sort of stay in those lanes. So that's why one of the reasons why I like black cold brew, right? Is it's like, it's literally just coffee and water. There's nothing else in it.
Love that. What's your favorite book on leadership or business?
Oh, it's a great question, man. I've been making up on lost time in the last 10 years. I'm like very proud of how much time I devote to reading now. Like, I watch very little TV now. I read, like I last year was my record. I read, I think 24 books last year. And sort of all over the place, right? Like, so I'm always reading a business book, and I always read some sort of like nonfiction. I like spy stuff and, that kind of stuff. And so I'm usually balancing the two, but, on leadership. So, I mean, look, we talk a lot right now. It's actually about Good to Great. One of the best business books and most researched business books of all time. I think it was written in like 1999.
Jim Collins, right?
Jim Collins. Yeah. Like, we are in our Good to Great period right now at Saxbys. Like, we have our flywheels, like we have our hedgehog strategy. Like, that book is everywhere in the company. Everyone has read it. Like, we are very, very devoted to that book right now, because like we are in our transition period right now. I think we are truly going from being good to great. And I say that with all due respect. Like, great is really hard to accomplish, but I think that's where we're moving right now as a business. So I love that. I would say from an entrepreneurial perspective, the book Shoe Dog.
I was literally just going to say, is Nick Bayer going to write his Shoe Dog Phil Knight Saxby story?
Man,
that was in my head as you said that.
That book is like,
so
as
good.
a zealot of Nike, right? And like, I'm of an age, certainly you guys, I'm of an age where like, I only know Nike is outrageously successful. I grew up in Chicago in the 90s, right? Like Michael Jordan. And so I only know it as successful. And so that book, when I picked it up, I was like, I can't wait to read about all this cool stuff. It ends as the business is becoming successful. For 17 years, Phil Knight didn't make $1 of profit. Rather, you talk about the struggle, the ups, the downs, the nonlinear path of an entrepreneurial business. It's very motivating, right? It's very, very motivating. So to me, I just reread that book, just recently, because like their turning point, interestingly, saying like a parallel to Saxby's, like their turning point was unlocking college, but particularly college coaches. They couldn't get in the 1980s, Adidas, Reebok, those were the brands. They couldn't unlock the players. But they went to a couple coaches and they got the coaches to do it. And then slowly but surely they got Michael Jordan. But like our unlock as a business is when we went to colleges, right, and unlocked it our own way. So hopefully one day, I don't think I'd ever write it because I think my story is too lame for people to want to actually read my book. But hopefully, like the parallel paths of like the Phil Knight, Shoe Dog, and Saxby's success, hopefully would be interesting to people.
Yeah. All right. So last question we always end with is the theme of the show is go-getters, right? Like we only want to have on go-getters. We're going to be very particular with our guests. So where do you think we talked a lot about your childhood, your upbringing. Where does Nick Bayer's go-getter mindset come from? Is it your nature, just you were born with it? Is it your nurture, the environment you grew up in with your hardworking parents? Talk about that.
I mean, I think it's probably a lot more nurture than nature, right? I think the easy answer, the cop-out lame answer, right, is like it's both, But I think that like if it has to be 51% or more, one or the other, I think it's very much a nurture thing. Right. Like I think it's an experience thing. And I think that's part of the reason why I'm so motivated by what I do, what we do at Saxbys and the work that you guys do as well. Right. Like, yeah, you guys are training people who have big social media followings, have Division I scholarships, and are playing in the pros. I think the majority of your people don't have that or will never have that. But you're going to have as much an impact in those young people as you will the others. Right. And so like you're nurturing people every single day. So yes, I had hard. My parents split up a lot when I was a kid. They had jobs they didn't love. We didn't have money. Like we lived in some tough neighborhoods. I went to some tough schools when I was a kid. Like there was a lot of things that for a long time in my life, I actually felt sorry for myself. But I realized that those are things that helped me unlock my greatness, right? Like the down times helped me unlock my greatness. And when our student COs show up, like we do training camps in the summer and then we do a training camp over the winter for all the new student COs that come in, they start their day with like a coffee talk with me. And the nature of the story that I always give is I tell them a little bit of this path when I went from like my middle school to my private Catholic high school. And it was maybe the hardest transition I'd ever had in my life, right? I was 2 grades behind academically, very different socially. I grew up in a very different neighborhood. Kids were a little unkind about it as well. It was really hard for me. And every day I begged my parents to let me go back to my neighborhood and go to my neighborhood high school. And they refused to let me do it. I had some teachers and some coaches who were like, you can feel sorry. Like this was my basketball coach. He was like, you can either feel sorry for yourself and cry in the corner or show up early and put in the work. And I had a couple of teachers who essentially mimicked that language in a little bit softer manner. And I was like, thank God for that kick in the butt, because I think human nature is to feel sorry for yourself. Why is the world hurting me? Why are things not falling into my place? But the nurture side of it, when other people outreach and force you to meet them halfway to put in the work, that to me is the biggest unlock, right? Like that's the biggest unlock to me. And so I think that I think it's a little bit of both, right? But I think that it can be nurtured out of anybody if you're willing to put in the work and deal with setbacks. Nothing good comes easy. Greatness is really hard to accomplish. You need to look at yourself in the mirror every single day and figure out, are you willing? Because you're capable. Everyone's capable. Are you willing to put in the work to pursue your greatness? Easier said than done. But it's those hard experiences where we learn the most about ourselves.
Love that.
Yeah.
I think that's good. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Selfishly just having on guests that are older, smarter, wiser than us. I think we just learned so much today. So I really appreciate you taking the time.
No, I'm very impressed by both of you guys. I mean, it's your questions are great. The fact that you're doing this, you ask questions in a way that you guys are wise beyond your years. You're thinking about things in a way that most people don't when they're 25 years old. It's very, very impressive.
I appreciate that. So I guess last thing, where can people find you if they're around the Philly area, where the Saxby's located? And
yeah. I mean, we're on pretty much every college campus in the Philly area, multiple on some of the campuses as well. But then Instagram, right? Saxby's on Instagram. It's Nick Bayer. I love LinkedIn, right? I wish I had LinkedIn when I was coming out of school, right? Because it's my network becomes their network, right? And it's a great way to communicate and sort of shrink the world to a place that's a little bit more sort of approachable. So hit me up on any of those.
Awesome. Well, love it. That's it. Any final words?
Love it. Learned a lot of good stuff. Hope you guys did too out there. Really influential person in the Philly area and the coffee industry. So I appreciate you coming on, taking the time.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to comment, subscribe, comment below who we should have on next. See you guys next time.